Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. If you will enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments to help me boost this video. Thanks. Story 1. My family murdered a rapist. This is my grandfather's story. It would have occurred sometime in the early 1960s. My grandpa comes from a very remote part of my country. Even in the 60 seconds they lived in a log cabin without a phone or electricity. He lived with his 3 brothers, his sister, his father, and his mother. It was a violent household. My great-grandfather was an alcoholic. My grandpa, his siblings, and his mother were accustomed to beatings. The culture of the time was to accept this as a harsh reality of the remote and difficult lives that were led so far from civilization. My great-aunt was the youngest of the siblings, and as my grandpa and his brothers grew into young men and began working, she was left at home and began to take on the role of housekeeper as my great-grandmother was often ill. She would often use her bad health as an excuse for not stopping what happened next. My great-grandfather began raping my great-aunt at some point, most likely before she had even begun puberty. It continued for years, as the brothers all moved out and she was left completely alone. My grandpa says he truly did not know. He worried for his sister receiving the brunt of the beatings, but he didn't know about the rape. I hope that's true. When my great-aunt was 13, she became pregnant with her father's son. The night my grandpa found out, him and his brothers snowmobiled out from town, and since none of them owned a gun, they had to use shovels to beat their father to death. The ground was frozen solid, so they burnt him, which also helped to destroy the evidence, I suppose. Although I'm not sure anyone ever questioned how my great-grandfather had died. These were very different times. My great-aunt's son, born of incest, is afflicted with genetic issues. He can barely see, and he only has a single functioning kidney. But he is happy and has healthy kids in their 20 seconds now. My great-aunt drank herself to death in the 80 seconds, as did my great-grandmother, so I never met them. My grandpa told me all this when he was drunk, as he has also become an alcoholic. So is my dad. The generational trauma of my family is thankfully now broken with me and my siblings, but this revenge murder, this disgusting hurt, was really just another sad piece of a puzzle of abuse that started long, long ago. See? Story 2. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine has been cooling for 10 years and counting. At 40 Fahrenheit have been married to my husband 44M for 20 years now. We have 2 kids 16 Fahrenheit and 13M. My husband is what I would consider a high earner by middle-class standards. Also, strap in folks, this is going to be long. I've never told anyone, so 10 years ago, and by complete coincidence, I found out that my husband has been cheating on me with men, and that from before we got married. We live in a smallish town in the south of the USA. Him coming out as gay will have consequences. I believe that is the only reason he has not come out to anyone. First, here's how I found out he was cheating on me. He got sloppy, left a credit card bill for a secret card in the pocket of a coat. While going through it, I found all the telltale signs of infidelity, payments to a hotel in a nearby county, restaurant bills, gifts, flowers, condoms, and lubricant, etc. I started camping outside the hotel on days he told me he would be late, and I saw him bringing different men there. I am very good at compartmentalization, and have a great poker face comes with growing up in an abusive household, so I was able to give myself the time to cool off and to come up with what I should do. First thing I did was getting an STD panel, since I didn't know how safe he was with his partners. It came out negative. And I convinced him that we should use condoms, since I was having side effects from the pill. He was okay with it. I had a long think, and I came up to the decision that I was not going to confront him, nor was I going to leave him. He was able to provide me a really good lifestyle, one that I would never be able to afford with my high school diploma, a cleaning lady, a nanny to help with the kids, regular spa days, and a country club, a new car every other year, luxury family vacations every year. He was a good dad, a good partner, the cheating aside, and really good in bed. And I was not going to let him have a single guilt-free week in his life. That would be my revenge. I started small, planning great date nights for us, telling him that I felt our relationship has cooled, that I wanted the spark back. and I would sometimes slip into conversation some tea about a cheating husband, a gasped gay man that has been using his poor wife as a beard, complimenting the only gay couple we know for having the courage of being real men who are out and proud of themselves. On the other hand, I would praise him as the perfect husband to anyone and everyone, especially if he was in earshot. The amount of guilt gifts I got was astounding. The man was even sending me flowers weekly. It continued the same way for years. I could literally see how much it was weighing on him. Me, well, my parents were part of a commune with the concept of free love. I was the same. I just considered myself in an open marriage. It seems that cheating is easier to ignore if you are not that big on monogamy in the first place. And my husband was keeping me satisfied, so I felt no need to find a partner of my own. And 4 years ago, I guess he met the love of his life. He started seeing just the one guy. I was seriously thinking of ending the whole thing, especially since I have started a business by then and was able to bring in enough money to support myself and my kids while maintaining my lifestyle. But then he went and introduced his side piece to us. He fucking brought him into our house, introduced him to our kids, and that was enough for me to keep tormenting him. Apparently he was a new friend he made while golfing. He started hinting at moving to another state, one where it would be easier for him to come out. I refused. I told him that my business was here, and I was not going to start over in another state. Also, the kids had their friends, an extended family here. It would be unfair to uproot them. Then he started trying to start arguments. I guess he wanted us to fight, then for me to ask for a divorce. I just stopped all those arguments in their tracks. I would just agree with whatever he said. He was right, I was wrong. And to make it up to him, how about a nice dinner and some great sex? He hated that. I knew from spying on his phone that having sex with me felt like cheating on his BF. The audacity of this man. I also knew that his BF was pressuring him to leave me almost every day. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He started drinking, and when it got too heavy, that was when I decided that enough was enough. I wanted to ruin his life, not his health. Also, I grew up with an alcoholic father and did not want that for my kids. So I gathered all the evidence of his infidelity over the last 9 years. Photos with different men, conversations, his Grindr profile, even though he no longer had one. Everything. And I hired a divorce attorney and mailed the evidence to his employer. He has a morality clause in his contract, and adultery breaks it. All his relatives, including parents, as well as our church is actually. I was never big on religion like him. It was like a bomb exploded. He was fired. The congregation turned on him for cheating, not for being gay. Let's keep that straight. I would never allow me kids to be part of a church that discriminated against their father, even if he was not out. His parents wouldn't take him in after I kicked him out, and he was shamed publicly. Gotta love that small town gossip mill. And the cherry on the top, his BF was run out of the town, and he couldn't follow him because he wanted to fight for custody of our kids. Now, almost a year later, I am a free woman. I got to keep the house, my car, and my business. He got 75% of the retirement and investments accounts, but he won't be paying alimony. I got full custody. He got visitations. I also got child support. He had to move 6 hours away to find a new job. Couldn't put the last job he worked at his whole life as a reference. His relationship with his family is rocky. His reputation in town is ruined, so he can't move back anytime soon. The love of his life left him for good, and my kids only tolerate him because I did my best to shield them and to tell them that he is still a good father to them. I also made sure to treat him politely, never talked bad about him, and had a lengthy talk about how their father being gay is okay, it's who he is, and that it was not his fault. That the only wrong thing he did was hiding it from me. So I guess the results of his cheating was years of guilt followed by a ruined life. Story 3. Try to publicly mess with my relationship and lie about him molesting me. Congrats on your relapse. I don't think anyone involved has read it, but this has only gone down over the 1.5 years I'm using my friend's throwaway. Sorry it'll be long. Some background. I grew up with a big group of family, friends. Our summer houses were all near each other. We all went to the same schools, called each other parents, aunt and uncle, etc. My brother and I always felt we were slightly left out, outsiders, black sheep. One of the girls, Claire not real name, molested me twice when we were kids. I was 8/9. Once at a sleepover and once at our summer home. I didn't dare bring it up because it would absolutely blow up our little community. And because of that outsider dynamic, everyone would absolutely choose their side. This was before her dad died, but after that you can also imagine how much sympathy her family garnered. So I ignored it, never forgot it, but only told friends completely separate from our community. When I was older, I also sort of pushed it aside until the past few years, when my therapist finally got me to realize that all because she's only 2 years older than me doesn't mean what she did was okay. A few years ago, she randomly got really cold towards me. Now that we're adults, we only see each other every few years anyway. I just thought it was strange since she always did it blatantly in front of everyone else. But no one seemed to care. Her mom and sister treated me the same. And my mom was completely shut out of any of Claire's wedding events, which destroyed her feelings and made me hate her even more. My long-distance boyfriend came to meet everyone for the first time. For visa reasons, we were going to start the marriage process a little sooner than we originally planned. But it is what it is, so my boyfriend was planning on asking my dad for my hand at the end of the trip. I only told one other girl about it who I'm closest with, but she obviously blabbed. While all the kids were hanging out outside, and the parents were inside, Claire accidentally mentioned it in front of everyone, including my brother. Some of the parents overheard from inside. Now I have about 25 people in our private business. Claire was so obviously pleased with herself. My dad can be kind of reactive when he's not expecting something, so the publicity of this made him even more frazzled. And while we brought it back to the house, everything was basically ruined. He was flustered and started going on about how it's too soon. It had been 1.5 years, and wouldn't listen while we tried to calmly explain to him that the fiancé visa itself can take up to almost 1 year. Etc. My boyfriend and I are fine and still together. It's just something that obviously should have been between us. And my family and gossip started flying. We go home, life goes on, yada yada. Fast forward a few months, and I have to see her when she's in town, and I'm at a get-together with some of the kids who also live in my city. Just the two of us. She accuses me of molesting her. And genuinely shocked, she said she doesn't have the heart to blow up the community right now, but laughed at me when I reminded her that it was actually her, and suggested this info might come out whenever my wedding may be. This sort of made me spiral for a few months. I wasn't sure if I was remembering it the wrong way or something. Sobbing, imagining how I was going to explain it to my BF, and if we would break up with me. I even started seeing my therapist twice a week, where she made it very clear that what I was describing was not a false memory at all. And she was 100% confident this actually happened to me. And apparently Claire turning it on me isn't uncommon. A very important piece of information: Claire is a coke addict. Massive cokehead, doing lines to start the day. Cokehead went to rehab where she met her now husband. She's been sober a few years, but she looks absolutely horrendous. I used to do coke recreationally. I quit a little while back. I just really hated the come down. We see everyone a few months later. We're all hanging out at her family's summer house. When we're alone, she hints at DMing my boyfriend before the weekend is over, obviously not knowing that he's already in the loop. I walked out. I was so angry and decided I would start getting ready for bed. I went to the bathroom and I had packed my toiletries in a bag I hadn't used in a long time, where I found a baggie of old coke. And her toiletry bag was also in the bathroom. I snapped, took the baggie, sprinkled a little bit on her toothbrush, chapstick, and mixed some into the oil she uses for oil pulling before leaving the ensuite bathroom and slipping the baggie into a pocket in her purse. And it happened. Exactly what you'd expect. Don't know when she found the baggie, but 2 nights later, when she said she wanted to go on a walk alone, I knew she was going to meet a dealer. A week later, she overdosed, went straight from the hospital to rehab, and apparently her husband is considering at least a separation. I broke down and told my boyfriend. I wouldn't say he was pleased, but was surprisingly supportive, and said if anyone deserved it, it was her. I realized then that I didn't actually feel bad for doing it. Just scared it was going to cost me my relationship. But it didn't. My dad is now on board since we've been together a little longer, and we've filed the visa paperwork. I probably won't see her for a few years, and I'm not sure if I'll let her know subtly what I did. And fuck you, Claire. The next time we see each other definitely won't be at my destination wedding. Story 4. All Army service records lost. This happened a few years back. My dad found out he's super allergic to some kind of shrub in central Texas Fort Hood after he was transferred there. As a result, he was restricted to office work and prohibited by Army doctors from outdoor duties. His West Point grad commanding officer was a hyper warrior kind of dude who detested soldiers who didn't want to train 24/7. Unfortunately, he thought my dad was milking his allergies in order to avoid being a real soldier. My dad was also married, and my mom was pregnant with my older sister, a situation that infuriated the captain because #reasons. The co never ever passed an opportunity to humiliate my dad by questioning his manhood, doubting his commitment to protecting the Constitution, disparaging his duties, etc. The co would call him out in front of the company, or debase him in front of higher HQ staff. He'd call the house at 6 a.m. on Sunday and order Dad in for bullshit reasons, anything to piss him off. In short, he made his life a living hell. FWIW, the first sergeant loved my dad's work performance, and said so privately. When my dad got orders to leave active duty, which enraged the co, he found out that the co received orders for an assignment that was a notch needed to guarantee promotions, as well as other plum jobs. Dad decided to fuck with his official records before leaving. As company clerk, he had full access to unit personnel files, orders, etc., which meant he also had keys to the building as well. This was during the pre-digital, pre-computer era. The night before my dad was to get out, he took all of the captain's personnel folders and mailed them separately and anonymously to various posts around the globe, knowing full well it would take weeks to deliver them to geographically unrelated unit mailrooms around the world that may or may not open the packages in order to return them. It just so happened that the unit was in the field for a 2-week exercise on the day my dad left, which meant a skeleton crew would man the phones and mow lawns until they returned from the field. No one was the wiser for weeks. One of my dad's old poker-playing sergeant buds wrote a few months later telling him that the captain went ballistic, that the missing files seriously damaged the fuckface of a captain's career prospects since some of the files were lost in the system. Therefore, the coveted assignment orders were canceled, and the entire personnel record had to be reconstructed manually by the Department of the Army. My dad said it was a teaching moment for the cruel asshole that you should never fuck with your unit clerk, because even chairborne rangers know how to serially wound enemies, foreign and domestic. Story 5. F-15M indirectly caused the death of my abusive ex-stepdad. DACKSTORY. When I was 9, my mom met a man who, for the sake of the story, we'll call JJ, was an unremarkable man. He was a chef, and he was from New York, living in South Philadelphia at the time. My mom, being emotionally unstable, decided to give him a try after lots of past relationships not working out seriously. She has a bad taste in men. And I feel it is a good time to mention my dad is dead from a drug overdose. Philadelphia man, drugs are everywhere. So my mom was desperate for someone to be that guy who is good for her and me. She gives Jay a chance, and out of nowhere, boom, Jay has cancer. Came out of the blue, and my mom's heartstrings were pulled by him, and she was attached to him for good. I was 9 at the time, so I was a stupid kid who never thought my mom could be wrong. Well, I didn't notice her getting black eyes, but my grandfather did. So one day at a corner store in my neighborhood, he decided to beat Jay black and blue. He was stuck on the couch for days, and looking back, it brings a smile to my face. But he convinced my mom that my grandmother, who was manipulated my grandfather to beat him up, so we have to move. After an intervention was held, holy fucking shit, I was there, it was wild. My mom had decided to move. We packed our things in our van, and I held my 90-pound Rottweiler on my lap, and we moved to fucking Florida. Chapter 2, fucking Florida. I'm gonna admit, life kinda sucked here. For 5 years, I was stuck in such a dumpster fire of a state with no family support. My mom was abused daily, and I was mostly mentally abused. I also lost my great-grandmother at this time, and I wanted to go back to Philly for the funeral, but Jay said no. Eventually, in 2021, my mom left Jay, and then the worst night of my life happened. Chapter 3, Halloween 2021. I was still in Florida, shocker, and I went trick-or-treating with a younger friend. At this point in time, my mom was paying for Jay's new apartment because she just wanted him gone. Well, he broke into our apartment, took my puppy for a walk. Weird time to care about a dog while committing a crime. But hey, my dog had fun and smashed everything. My mom decided instead of calling the police, she would confront him ... with me, alone. So we went, and as a precaution, my mom had a knife on her. We went, and when we got there was a girl. With Jay, a fight ensued, and I called 911. I also beat the everlasting shit out of Jay. Unfortunately, my mom couldn't see that and thought Jay was winning. So she stabbed him non-lethal. His fat got it. He didn't go to the hospital. So when police showed up, they gave a good look at my mom with choke marks from the fight and arrested her for assault and breaking and entering. Chapter 4, leaving Florida and having a very Merry Christmas. Well, the trial came and went. My mother is off the hook, but she will be a felon until a completion of a program. So we left him in Florida and decided to move back north to New Jersey. My mom breaking up with Jay was account to me because I pushed hard for it. Life continues, and November comes around, and I received news that made me burst out in laughter. Jay's sister came forward and told us he shot himself in the head. I even read his suicide note and everything. I ruined his relationship with my mom, and karma came back. Life goes on, and he dies unloved and alone.